Hello and welcome to my channel on human design. Today I'm going to look at restrictions. I'm going to look at when we have to say stop. I'm looking at that theme that you all know of, when enough is enough. And we often use that phrase in human design when we're talking about the open sacral and the three types that do not have the sacral, that we say they don't know when enough is enough. So what I want to look at today is all different kinds of versions of how to know when enough is enough, so that you can actually be conscious in your own life of where you're losing energy and where your energy is actually trapped in some kind of pattern that you keep on reinforcing. And I want to give you some hints on how to see that and how to break away from it. Before I do that, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Richard Beaumont. I've been in human design for more than 25 years. 20 of those have been training professional analysts. Okay, so now let's have a look. Let's look at it at the physical level. I'm thinking of it in terms of both internal and external. I'm a manifesting generator with the 60th gate, line 1 in my personality sun. This is the gate of limitations. It is in the line of acceptance, and it's really about me finding out and investigating through my life where the limits are, where I can push them, where I can't push them, where they're true limits. So I know a lot about this, and as a 1-3, I have hurtled into all kinds of things, especially in my not self life. I mean, I just went charging head on into all kinds of stupidities and had to find out the hard way what my limits were. However, I have to say, because of my design, I didn't meet that many limits. Certainly in making my way in the world, I had to overcome a lot of things. But physically, not really. Not until I was in my mid-30s, maybe a bit later, maybe later 30s. And I was clearing out the offices to move, and I didn't have the staff available to help me at that time. So I did it myself. And I was running a magazine company. And we had these magazines in boxes, and they were all pretty heavy. And I wanted to move them, so I moved them, and I was moving lots of them. I was actually throwing them into a skip outside the window. Seemed to be the most logical way. After running a magazine for years, you have a lot of back issues, and I had far too many. So I was doing this day after day. In the evenings when I'd finished the day's work, I was moving magazines, and I was at it, and I was fully in it and fully focused in it. And I think it was in the early hours of the morning, the body just kind of stopped. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to lie down? So I did. And then I realized it was difficult to get up. Then I realized I was aching all over the body. And, you know, this was like, it wasn't a matter of finishing the job then. It was a matter of getting up, getting into the car and driving home. It was my first real experience of a physical limitation. And I've had some more since then in different ways, climbing mountains and whatever. But the main thing is, this was a wake-up call for me. And I pass it on to you as a learning for you. Now, a lot of people who are watching this already know what I'm talking about, especially the open sacrals. You know what exhaustion is. What I'm trying to point you to is the physical body as being the first indicator when it stops, or when it's aching, or when it's in pain, or when you're actually meeting resistance in what you're doing. We talk about resistance with generators because generators are doing creatures. So it's when the doing, you know, you meet this wall, the body goes, no more. And obviously I've become much more sensitive to that over the years. But this is what I want you to pay attention to. Resistance is when the physical body is no longer available for doing whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be hard physical work. It can be mental work. It can be doing detailed accounts. It can be going to meetings you've always been to, and you get this internal heartsink feeling as you go in to do the same job you've always been doing. The mind can always think of reasons and excuses, and you've got to do this, because of that. But if the body is showing resistance, it's not going to last that long. If you keep pushing, you're going to get your energy into a downward spiral where you have less and less energy. And I've seen too many times the lives of people really shrinking down to just surviving, really. Now, if you can catch this before it gets to that level, and if the energy doesn't want to be available for the things in your everyday life, then something has to change. And the first thing to change is to stop what you're doing. One of the greatest victories we can come to is when we turn away and we don't do what we've always done. And yes, the mind may be going crazy, going, what are you doing? You're messing it up by not doing it, or whatever. You don't really have a choice at that point, because if you continue, the life will become less of a life and more of an existence. And you will also see it in the environment around you. Most people want to live in an environment that is naturally nurturing to them. But if your environment is becoming more and more untidy, if things are just left, if you just don't care anymore, then something has to change. Now, either it can be a new force coming into the life, someone coming in to help you, someone with logic perhaps, who can tidy things up and put things in the right order and make it easy for you to get hold of things. That's one way of doing it. You may need help, but whatever happens, you have to stop what it is that you're doing. I'm not saying stop it immediately. I don't want you to be stupid about it, but to see that an alternative now has to be found. And that freedom in walking away from whatever it is, it can be a job that you really never liked, or it's changed and it's no fun anymore, and there's no pleasure in the achievement there. This is not a good thing for a generator. If it's a relationship that is really not going anywhere, where not only are neither of you growing together, but both of you are kind of shrinking into your own different worlds, and you're not really linked, these are signs that something has to change. And the first thing is to stop continuing it, to stop doing what you've always done. If you think about the different types, and there are some general things, for example, projectors, if you are spending a great deal of energy reaching out to try to bring people towards you, this can become habitual. And if it hasn't worked, it's not going to work. This isn't the way. You're probably in the wrong place. You're probably around the wrong people. It's really about being a smart projector. You're not here to work every day. You're not here to be in the life where you are tied to ongoing doing. But there are many that are. It's the guidance of those. If you're not in that position, then withdraw, come back, look at the life again from a different perspective. It is a perfectly valid and ancient technology, if I put it that way, for all human beings to want to retreat, to want to withdraw from the world at certain times. It's a very natural and, in my view, very essential thing for all of us to do at different times. When the world is too much, then you've got to stop the world in some way. You've got to put it on hold. You've got to come back to yourself and then move back in on a different setting, in a more balanced setting, or with the motivation in order to not repeat what has kept you small, that has kept you trapped, that has kept you stuck. And you may not know where to start, which is why it can sometimes be a good idea to bring in a friend or someone, maybe even at a professional level, who can come and start the ball rolling a step at a time. First we clean this, then we do that, you know, we contact that person, we do this, you know, there's a number of different things that can always be done. If you think you're in a hopeless situation, you're not. You just can't see the way through it. But there are those people who can and who can help you. So we have the external way of looking at when enough is enough in terms of the energy that's available. We see the internal recognition of a limit that you can't get through the heart sink, through the gradual depression that can come upon people when they are continuing to go in the wrong direction. It can also be, you've got to stop. For some of you, it may be that you need to stop relating to certain people. In the tribal circuitry, we have the lesson of rejecting negative influences. Are those people, other people around you that are always trying to get your energy, to get you to do something for them? Well, how much longer are you going to continue to work in that way for them and ignore yourself? The lesson we get from the channel of synthesis, the 1949, is to get this balance between the needs of others and your own needs. And very often people will put themselves second because of this prevalence of the open ego and people not feeling worthwhile in themselves. So it's a kind of a built-in slave mentality that can get locked in there in trying to prove, in trying to do more, etc. So these are things to watch. In terms of your communication to others, you know, if you've got a gunslinger channel, the 1762, the 4323, the 1156, and you're not feeling recognized in having your ideas received, well, just wait for the right moment rather than going in there all guns blazing, talking in a habitual way, the way that you're used to, but the way that will keep on producing the same results of you not being listened to and the bitterness of not being heard. It's about seeing what's in your chart that is running without any correct decision-making involved. Generators doing work without response. Projectors diving in there without an invitation. Manifestors allowing themselves to be controlled and controlling others in order to try and keep a balance, which basically isn't going to work. Or reflectors just finding themselves in a life that doesn't work for them at all. It's about transformation in the end, at least it is for me. And part of my message to you in these YouTube videos is to help the transformation in your own lives. And by seeing that if you are caught in different areas, that you have to stop, even if you don't know what you're going to do, to be able to stop and retreat and withdraw and give yourself some precious time in order to reflect upon what is going on, in order to recover physically, in order to get out of the particular environment that is keeping you trapped, that you're identifying in a particular way because you're in that environment or around those people. Step back. That's really my message for today. There is a time when you have to stop. And it's a time that you want to notice that is a true limitation. That if you keep on pushing, and the mind won't necessarily give up because of the reasons, you're just going to dig yourself a deeper hole. And the outside world will then reflect that deeper hole. And it will become denser and denser and denser and denser until you really don't know what to do. So this can happen. And my advice to you is, if you can catch it before it happens, step back, you know, talk to people who can actually help you and want to help you. Okay, well, that's my little message for today. If you want to know more about human design, my website link is there. human.design, and I wish you well, and I will see you very soon with something completely different. Bye for now.